Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at some Remette knives. We're going to review the Paragan Falcon, but in my opinion, they have been really doing some really awesome things this year. This is one of the knives I reviewed this year. This is the Kingfisher, and you know, when I first saw this one, I was like, oh, that's definitely not going to be for me. However, you know, the more I use them, the more I bond with them. I love the fact that they got this nice clean show side, no screws, and the way this one's held together, you pop this backspacer up and it's kind of hooked in there. This backspacer will allow you to unscrew the pivot screw. You have a blind screw mill tie clip. The action on these knives are very, very nice, very comfortable, very snappy. And yeah, I like this one a good bit. This one's in M390 steel with their pearlescent finish or whatever it is. And even though this is definitely not a blade shape I would choose, I'm glad I got the chance to test it because I enjoyed it. You got that belly up there to do flat cuts. You could use that tip very easily. Then you have that secondary tip right there if you need to pop into something. Then you have that very minor recurve right there that does a good job of trapping material. So it performed really nice. If you didn't see my review of this one, go check it out. If you're interested in this one, I will have it linked down below. And then we reviewed the Remette RT Swordfish Gravity Knife, and my biggest complaint was that it didn't have a pocket clip. Now they have a pocket clip and they have different inlay options. This one has the copper foil. This one's just a regular carbon fiber. But I gotta say, I like the Tanto blade, but I wanted to see another blade shape as well. And now we have the clip point blade, both of them M390, and I love that they have pocket clip. Also, you now have two different textures. Now you have this dimpled texture right here. Then you have this three-dimensional texture here that is raised, very nicely done, all titanium, very smooth action on these new ones as well. And I've enjoyed these quite a bit also. If you're interested in one of these, I will have them linked down below as well. Today we're going to be reviewing the Remette Peregrine Falcon. This one at first is another one that I was kind of on the fence about because I'm not, once again, the biggest Tanto fan, but this one really surprised me. I definitely want to check it out because it has the button pivot lock. We'll discuss that in a little bit. So we have this drop point Tanto blade, which I don't mind those because you can get that tip onto things, so it becomes a versatile blade shape. You have this nice secondary point right here on this Tanto blade. The blade finish on this one, you have their pearlescent finish. I don't really know what that process is, but it doesn't look like a bead blast because this section right here is bead blasted. The pearlescent finish is super slick, which helps with slicing because the less friction you have, the better it's going to slice. So I really enjoy that finish. It doesn't smudge like a regular bead blast finish does. And I have not had any issues with it corroding, and I live here in the South. I've carried this one quite a bit. Y'all would be surprised on how much this one got carried since I've had it. I've had this one for, I think, over 2 months now. The only reason I held it is because they had sold out. Now they have new ones in stock. So if you are interested in this one at the end of this video, I will have it linked down below as well. The links are affiliate links. So if you want to help support what I do here on this channel, that is pretty much the only way to do so. But if not, no big deal at all. I like how they have this little scoop right here. It fits really nicely. Even though you don't have any jimping, you got a nice flat spot to rest your thumb. I never felt like I was going to lose control of the blade. Do I think a little bit of jimping up here at the front? I think that would have been nice, so you can make some power cuts this way. Blade steel on this one's Bowler M390, hardened to 60 to 61 HRC, and I have not had any issues with the performance on the Remette knives. I've found that they perform really nicely, better than some of these other companies, I'll be honest. You do have a nice sharpening choil, as you can see here, so you should have tons of sharpening life before to widen up in the back right here. These are both flat grinds right here that come down pretty nice and thin for the sharp grind height. This back portion right here comes down to around 18 thousandths behind the edge, and this tip portion comes down to around 14 thousandths behind the edge. And I think it's just because the edge bevel on this one's a little bit thinner, I think, and this one's a little bit steeper. So it's probably going to balance itself out on both sides. Now let's see how it performs. My knife came with a really good edge out of box, and being that it is a Tanto edge, you have that straight portion that makes this type of cutting very easy, and it's slicing very well. I'm kind of choked up, so I'm not getting hung up in that little area by the plunge line or anything, and so far so good. I've had pretty good luck with all my Remette knives with the performance side of things. I found that the Rockwell hardness seems to be done fairly well. Whoever does their OEM work seems to do a good job, is basically what I'm saying. Not to mention that pearlescent finish. I find it glides through material a lot easier, causing way less friction than, say, a regular bead blasted finish or a coated blade. Now, testing the ergos, I'm choked up once again. I want to get right up to that edge so I can kind of watch where that edge is going. Start out with light pressure, and then we slowly start to increase pressure more and more. And being that this handle is fairly neutral, you got some nice chamfers on the side. It was comfortable. Felt locked in. I felt like I get a lot of force into the wood, especially because you have that straight edge portion to use. And, you know, especially once I got the right grip. You got some, not hard angles, I'm not going to say, but just where the chamfers end, there's a little line there. Not uncomfortable or anything, just something that I wanted to note. Now, I'm using the tanto portion to do this type of cutting. That's pretty much either I'm going to use that portion up front or I'm going to use the spot at the transition area, but it's sharp enough and has enough bite to it to where I'm being able to use it fairly easily up there. And I find it's doing a good job. It's doing, you know, some push cuts, some, you know, just downward thrusting cuts, and I don't have to do any sawing motion cuts because it has a good enough edge. It's usually when you can tell that edge is starting to die out is whenever you really have to saw through the material. But not bad. I was kind of worried that I would mess with that button in that pinch grip, but, you know, you have to depress it a good bit to disengage the lock in that manner, so no problem there whatsoever. And I was pretty happy. I think we get through 130 before I ran out of the piece I cut for this one, and it definitely still felt like it had a good edge left to it. Of course, we will check that out in just a second, but so far so good, and I gotta say I'm pretty happy with this one. This one really took me by surprise. I did not expect to like it because it just looks a little futuristic, and I don't really like the lightning in it too much. I'm not a big Tanto fan. But like I said earlier and many times before, that's what I like about being a reviewer, being able to check out some knives that I wouldn't normally buy for myself, and I love when I'm surprised by those designs. So here I'm using that secondary tip. As you can see, it's blasting through the leather, and still has a really, really good edge to it, popping all the material, tubing, no problem whatsoever. And that's usually there in the dense cardboards where I feel the friction. Usually whenever it's got like a coated blade or a blasted blade, it's blasting through here. 10-ounce denim was absolutely no problem. I give this one an A++. It performed outstanding. Let's take a look at the deployment and the action of this knife. You do have a front flipper and you have a blade hole, but whenever I'm reverse flicking it, I like to use this little piece right here because it really grabs a hold of the finger nicely. And the action on this is really nice. They could have made this jimping a little bit grippier. I can easily front flip it, but you know, it would have made it even more easy. You can slow roll it all the way around without losing contact of that front flipper. But for me, the reverse flick is probably my go-to means to deployment. You can thumb flick it, and you can also slow roll it. The action on this knife is very smooth, riding on ceramic bearings and a ceramic detent ball. And this particular knife has a button liner lock. And as soon as you press that button, I mean ridiculously smooth. You can also deploy it from that button if you want. And the way this button is set up, it is connected to this liner lock right here. And once you press it, it moves over that liner lock. And pretty interesting the way they set it up. I'll try to pop up on the screen right now. I took this apart. It's not the easiest knife to take apart, but if you're mechanically inclined in the least, you could easily do it. You have to remove this little cap right here by unscrewing it. There is a spring underneath this button right here to give it that little spring pop to it. I will say, whenever I took this knife apart the first time, I did lose the spring to this knife. And if you happen to lose it, it is still completely functional. I think they just put it there to make it a little bit easier to unscrew this and make it come out a little bit so it's a little bit easier to press. I didn't have any issues whenever I thought I lost it. I was easily able to deploy it and close the knife, no problem. One thing that I think they could have done with this little button right here is put a flathead slit or something right there, or put a little Torx spot in the middle, because if you need to take this apart for some reason, it can be a little bit difficult. I have a little pair of pliers. I think they pull up little clips, and I grabbed onto both sides of that and unscrewed it. I could have probably done it with my fingers. It wasn't super tight. I will say, whenever I put it back together, I did put a little bit of Loctite on this button because it was coming loose. But if I wouldn't have taken it apart in the first place, it probably wouldn't have started happening. But all in all, I don't think you have to take this apart. You could blow it out with compressed air, rinse it out under a faucet, blow it out with some compressed air, let it dry, and you'd be perfectly fine. You could drop some lube in there, no problem, and it'd be good to go. But I do really like the button release there. It keeps your fingers out of the blade path when closing, so it's a nice and safe lock, and it's pretty easy to manipulate. When it came to the ergos of this knife, whenever I was doing the testing, it was really comfortable. You got decent thickness on these scales. You got a little spot right here that you can choke up if you need to make a nice controlled cut right there. You can get right up to that edge. And overall, it was just comfortable. The pocket clip stayed out of the way of my hands, and there's no crazy trawl areas or anything. So pretty nice and comfortable, especially for flat titanium scales. This is a little inlay here, titanium inlay. My particular one has the lightning anno finish on it. Not my favorite, but I think there's 4 variations in total. There's one I have. There's the complete lightning anno on all the tie and the little inlay. There's a tiger stripe one that I like a lot, I think with a bronze inlay or overlay, should we call it. And then there's also one other one that I can't really remember, but they all look nice, whichever one floats your boat. Their finishing's good as well. This one has a bead blasted frame. Got some chamfers going all the way around. So there's no sharp spots where you don't want them to be. You have a titanium backspacer that has a little geared pattern right here, or little jimps right here. Sits a little proud of the scales, but doesn't really offer much of anything. You do have an integrated lanyard loop into the backspacer right there. So if you like lanyards, you could definitely put one there. Underneath here takes a spanner, a little spanner tool. So if you don't have one of those, it's going to be kind of difficult to remove that. But like I said, you don't really have to. I do wish they would have went with Torx T8 here. They went with T6. Now, I have taken this knife apart. I had no issues with anything stripping on me, so I'm not that upset about it. And then you have Torx T6 for the tie pocket clip. As you can see here and here, you have spots for tritium. If you like that kind of thing, you could put some there and there. The tie pocket clip has good spring to it, goes in and out of the pocket nicely, and this is about how far it sits. So got a little bit sticking out, but it gives you something to pinch onto to pull out of the pocket. Now there is no lefty love on here. Now let's check out the inside. You have heavy skeletonization on that top titanium scale and on the bottom to try to reduce weight as much as possible. And as you can see, you have that inset liner lock right there. It's just a locking liner, and hopefully you can see that in there. You do have a hardened stainless steel lock insert, something you don't always see on those liner locks. Bringing the weight to 133.9 grams or 4.72 ounces. There's your balance point on the knife. Now let's check that lockup. My knife is sitting around 30% or so, and mine's super solid. No movement up or down, left or right whatsoever. And because of that button, I don't have to worry about access to the lock bar. Quick size comparison with the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. Next up, we have the Remette Kingfisher, and it's about the same length as the RT Swordfish. And lastly, we have the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3. Now, for my nitpicks and complaints, I do think they could have made this jimping a little bit grippier for the front flipper. However, I can still easily do it, so it's not that big of a deal. Do think they could have put some sort of slit here or a little Torx head right there. So if you do need to take this apart, you could get that off rather easily. And of course, I would have loved to see T8 hardware throughout here. And maybe not have this bead blasted finish here, just because that leaves it up for some corrosion. Like I said, I haven't had any issues, and I have sweated on it, so it may not become a problem, just something that I would rather not see. But my overall final opinion on the knife, this comes in at $258. Definitely think it's reasonable for, you know, all the extra stuff with this little pivot liner lock you're getting. I think it's a cool knife, and I like it way more than I ever expected to. I continue to carry this knife. You know, sometimes whenever after I review a knife, especially if I don't bond with them, I don't usually carry them all that much after that. and maybe possibly sell them. But this one I've enjoyed, and I've continued to carry, and I will continue to carry it. And it's really not something that I usually go for, but that's the joy of being a knife reviewer. Sometimes I get to check out knives that I wouldn't have normally got, and then I find out that I really bond with them. So like I said, if any of these interest you, I will have them all linked down in the description. All right, now we're going to pick for this brand new Vosteed Acorn. It's still sealed up in the package. Blue canvas micarta with the satin blade, 14C. I reviewed this knife, love the knife. So I was starting fresh, and I gave people a lot of extra time to enter. So hopefully everybody that wanted to entered the giveaway. So let's go to the video. Share, copy link. And then we go back here, and let's post that link, paste. All right, so no, not anything goes. You had to say I'm in at least. Click here, keyword feature. You had to say I'm in at least, and then tell me what video you want to see. But I'll take I'm in. Include replies. We're not allowing duplicate users. Now listen, I'm picking 3 names. The first name, I'm going to give them 24 hours to respond. If they don't respond to my email that's in the description of this video, I'm going to go to the second one I chose. Same goes, I'll give that second one 24 hours. And if they don't respond, I'm going to go to the third. Only reason I'm doing this is because so often nobody claims their dang prize. So hopefully this will help. One other thing, if the first person does not claim the prize, the second person, that'll be, 24 hours later, if they claim it, you got to understand I won't be able to ship it out till like Monday or Tuesday because I will be on a men's retreat with my father. So, okay, let's go ahead and continue. Let's see how many, okay, here it is. 200, let's see how many comments. 100 comments that have I'm in. So this is, it's going to be instantly, so we're just going to click it. First, that's winner number 1. I'm in. I would love to see. He did exactly what I said. I already have a review of that if you want to check it out. But you're still the winner. If he doesn't claim his prize, look, that's number 1. Let's go. This is the number 2 alternate winner. So if he doesn't claim it in 24 hours, Brandon, you will be next in line. All 3 of these, y'all send me an email showing me your screen name and your comment. And then, like I said, we'll go from there. That's number 2. And the third alternate will be Evenflow 102. So if the first 2 don't respond in their 24-hour period, then it'll be on you. So like I said, all 3 of y'all, if y'all all happen to respond, just email me, like I said, just so I know you've seen it, and we're going to go from there. I will let the other 2 know if the first one does claim their prize. So thank y'all. I appreciate everything y'all do for me. Y'all are awesome. We will do more giveaways in the near future. So see y'all on the next one. Peace.